When you think of Scotland, what do you picture? Do you picture ridiculous scenery, men in kilts maybe? Or do you picture the Loch Ness Monster? The Loch Ness Monster is one of, if not our most popular myth. And when I say myth, I don't mean it as in Nessie's not real, because we all know, like wild haggis, Nessie's definitely real. But I mean myth as in Scottish folklore, a traditional Scottish story. So this is Nessie, or is this Nessie? Nobody really knows. Either way, the Loch Ness Monster is usually described as this huge, long-necked creature with humps that protrude from the water. She's said to inhabit Loch Ness, which is Scotland's second largest loch by surface area after Loch Lomond, at 56 square kilometres. It's 36 kilometres long, and it's also Scotland's second deepest loch, its deepest point being at 230 metres, although I read a thing from 2016 that said there's a new deepest point at 270 metres. Either way, it's pretty deep.
Deep enough to hold London's BT Tower and still have room to spare. It's the largest freshwater body of water in the UK.
It also contains more water than all of the lakes in Scotland and Wales combined. It's pretty big, man. And that is a lot of water for a monster to lurk. I'm just saying. Before we get on to the creepy sightings of Nessie, of which there are over 1,000 by the way. If you're new here, I'm Erin. I make videos about Scotland, the outdoors, mental health, periods, gin and life. Over 70% of people that watch my videos aren't subscribed, so if you're into all that, please subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Right, on to the sightings. So there's a bunch of Scottish myths like kelpies, water serpents that date back to 1500-year-old texts. And there's this Pictish stone carving that it's not easily identifiable as a normal animal that we would see every day. It appears to have a long snout or like a trunk or something, and its feet aren't like regular feet of the other animals in the carving, so that implies that it could be a water creature or a sea beast. I think the stone's Meagle 4 and it can be viewed in the Meagle Museum. I'll put all the links down below. So as you can see, these creatures date back a long time. So sighting wise, it was said that the first sighting was documented in the life of St Columba, written in the 6th century. So the story goes, the Irish monk St Columba he was having a wee walk down by River Ness, and he saw a bunch of men burying a man next to the River Ness. And they said that the man was attacked by a water beast that dragged him underwater and he was killed. And Columba sent one of his followers out to cross the river, and if that was me I'd be like, mate, away you go, swim yourself. I mean, how mean is that? I don't know if the follower was alright, but it was said that the beast approached Columba, who did the cross sign, you know, like as if this beast was was it a vampire? Who knows? But he did the cross sign, and apparently the beast moved back as if it was being pulled by ropes and then fled. I think Columba might have been exaggerating, but you never know. There was a couple of other sightings from the 1870s and the 1880s that you can read about if you want, and probably more as well. But the interest in Nessie peaked in 1933 when George Spicer and his wife saw a most extraordinary form of animal cross the road in front of their car. They said it had a large body, about 8 metres long, and a long neck, and they couldn't see its feet, so maybe it had, like, you know, webbed feet, or maybe it slithered across the road like a snake, who knows, and it moved towards the loch. And then in 1933 as well, a man took a photo of the monster, but it turned out it was actually just an otter rolling, and people thought it was this Labrador fetching a stick, but I think people analysed it and it was an otter. In 1934, a man nearly knocked down poor Nessie on his motorbike, and he described her as a cross between a seal and a plesiosaur. And as a Jurassic Park fan, this excites me. The thought of an actual dinosaur living in a Scottish loch. Imagine. Well, you don't have to imagine because Nessie's real. So anyway, this guy Arthur followed where the creature went, and he just saw ripples in the water. Ooh. And then also in 1934, a wee opportunist took the most famous photo of the Loch Ness Monster, called the surgeon's photo. And I think the man didn't want his name associated with the photo, and that's why it was called the surgeon's photo. And you'll have probably all seen this photograph. It's really, really famous. Like when you think of a photo of the Loch Ness Monster, you think of this photo because it was everywhere, and for 60 years people thought this was actual proof that the Loch Ness Monster existed, and the photo was analysed like mad over the years. I know, Robert, I think the guy's name was Robert, but I'm not sure. Did you think you would get away with this? Because long story short, the photograph's a hoax, it's not real, and apparently it was created using a toy submarine, so rubbish. But in December 1954, sonar readings were taken by the fishing boat Rival 3, and its crew noticed a large object keeping pace with the boat at a depth of 146 metres, and it was detected for 800 metres before connection was lost. And previous sonar attempts were inconclusive or negative. So again, lots of sightings in between. In 2017, 4 guys said they saw something huge arch out of the water and then go back down, and they took this photo, and obviously it's really far away and looks like a dot, but Nessie. And the last recorded sighting was from the 3rd of June this year, and it was from a woman called Kaylin Wangle, I think it was, and she was sitting in Oregon watching the live webcam of Loch Ness, which you can do, I didn't realise. And it's funny to think of people in the US just sitting watching the live webcam of Loch Ness waiting for Nessie to pop out. But she saw this on the webcam, and I'll put the video here. The video's on YouTube, I'll put the video down below as well. And there was also another recent one, this one, which a few of you sent me, and it was a photo taken by Steve Chalice. People were saying this was a catfish or something else, some other fish, or you know, shark or something. But yeah, people were mainly saying this was a catfish because they can grow so big, and also it has the same colourings as a catfish. However, I heard this guy's a 3D graphical artist, just saying, and the spots on the image lined up with a photo of a catfish that you can get online. So Steve, I'm onto you. I don't believe this photo's real, unfortunately. If you go on lochnessightings.com, I'll link it below, you can read about and see pictures and videos from all the latest sightings, or all the recorded sightings, and it's quite fun. There's been a few other images too, like this Apple Maps photo, which looks like it could be a big catfish or Nessie, but apparently it's actually just a boat. So yeah, these are the notable sightings. I've actually been to Loch Ness. There's Nessie. I went to Urquhart Castle, and I also did a boat tour of the loch, but the boat stopped at the castle, which we planned on doing later in the day, so we didn't get off, but everyone else on the boat got off. So we had the whole boat to ourselves. It was amazing. And it was funny because the boat was blaring Scottish music and Loch Lomond came on, my jam, and we were just sitting singing Loch Lomond on Loch Ness, and it was funny.
My jam's on.
And I was with my ex-boyfriend, and he got so into it and he was dancing, and one of the staff members came up and went, "Oh, there's your song." It was funny. I think you had to be there actually. Unfortunately we didn't see Nessie, but maybe I'll go back sometime. So you'd think a lot of people would have maybe looked into this a little bit and tried to do some investigations, and there has been a bunch of investigations into it. There was a sonar study in the 60s where a guy, Gordon Tucker, chair of the Department of Electronic and Electrical Engineering at the University of Birmingham, he offered to help as a sonar developer and expert at Loch Ness. He wanted Loch Ness to be a test site for a prototype sonar transducer with a maximum range of 800 metres, and I'm just going to pretend I know what that means because... So this device was placed under the loch, and it formed a sort of net across the loch where nothing that moved could swim through undetected. And during this 2-week trial, multiple things were identified. One was probably a shoal of fish, but others moved in ways that weren't typical of shoals of fish. Then there was the Robert Rines studies. So a camera with a floodlight was put under the loch again, and if Rines detected anything on the sonar, he would turn the light on and it would take an image. So his sonar unit identified a moving target, or targets, estimated by echo strength at 6 to 9 metres. And specialists examined the data, and one of them suggested that the data showed a 3-metre lump projecting from one of the echoes. The shape was a highly flexible, laterally flattened tail, or the misinterpreted image of 2 animals swimming together. So going along with these sonar readings, the camera captured 2 images. Both showed what appeared to be a rhomboid flipper, although skeptics have said that the images showed the bottom of the loch, rocks, air bubbles or a fish fin. And both were enhanced and retouched from the original negatives. And according to team member Charles Wyckoff, the photos were retouched to superimpose the flipper, and the original enhancement showed a different, less distinct object, basically. And no one's quite sure how the originals were altered. And during a meeting with Tony Harmsworth and Adrian Shine at the Loch Ness Centre and exhibition, which I've been to, it's quite good, Rhines admitted that the flipper photo might have been retouched by a magazine editor. Tut, tut. And another sonar contact was made, this time with 2 objects said to be about 9 metres. The strobe camera photographed 2 objects surrounded by bubbles, and some interpreted the objects as 2 plesiosaur type animals. And in 2008, Rhines suggested that Nessie might have become extinct, which is really sad. We won't think about that. Not true. There was also Operation Deep Scan in 1987. 24 boats with echo sound and equipment were placed across the width of the loch, and they all sent acoustic waves at the same time. And according to BBC News, the scientists have made sonar contact with something that was crazy strong and huge. So the researchers came back and scanned the area again, and when they looked at the echo sounder images, it seemed to show debris at the bottom of the loch, although there was motion in the 3 pictures. But it was thought that because of the size they might be seals. And sonar expert Daryl Lawrence, I'm not sure, he donated some of the echo sounder units used in the operation, and after examining a sonar return that showed a big moving object 180 metres down near Urquhart Bay, he said, quote, "There's something here that we don't understand, and there's something here that's larger than a fish, maybe some species that hasn't been detected before. I don't know." And then in 2003, the BBC sponsored a search that used 600 sonar beams and satellite tracking. The search had decent enough resolution to identify a small boy. Not a small boy as in like a wee boy, but like a boy, like a water boy. The water boys? Anyway, imagine they're like looking for a Loch Ness Monster and the sonar just brings out an image of the water boys. Anyway, right, enough. So nothing was actually found in this investigation, and scientists said that this was proof that Nessie was just a myth. And to that I say, load of rubbish. Like, alright, just because you never found something doesn't mean that something doesn't still live under there, right? It just means that you've not done your job properly. So then in 2018, an international team did a DNA survey of the loch to try and identify the DNA of all the creatures or species that lived in the loch. Results showed that there was no DNA of large fish such as sturgeons, catfish or sharks. There was also no otter or seal DNA. A lot of eel DNA was found, and the leader of the study said that he couldn't rule out eels of extreme size. The other possibility that such a large amount of eel DNA came from just a bunch of small eels rather than a large eel. No evidence of any reptilian sequences were found, he said. And he also said, quote, "So I think we can be fairly sure there's probably not a giant scaly reptile swimming around in Loch Ness." I think these experts are talking rubbish. Maybe their thingies didn't pick up the DNA of the Loch Ness Monster because it's so unidentifiable and so unknown and unrecognisable that we can't possibly understand it. It's my theory anyway. I feel like I should have a look. I feel like I could maybe have a connection with Nessie and maybe we can communicate. I wouldn't tell you though. Wouldn't want anyone to go and find him. Her. He, her, I don't know. So what could Nessie be? Let's talk about what Nessie or what these sightings could actually have been. The explanations are birds. So you know, like when they emerge from the water and they form like ripples in the water, or like V's, I think. I don't know. I'm not a bird expert, right? I don't know. Eels. As this DNA thingy showed, there's a lot of eels in Loch Ness. A large eel could be a possible explanation, but do eels' heads protrude from the water like that? Do eels walk across roads in front of cars? An elephant was another suggestion, like an elephant bathing in the loch from a travelling circus. I'd get a fright if I saw an elephant in the loch, but I feel like people would know the difference between an elephant bathing and the Loch Ness Monster, you know? A Greenland shark, which can reach up to huge lengths. There was one featured in River Monsters. Mad. A big catfish. Or animals like otters and stuff swimming next to each other. Tree logs, bits of trunks in wood floating about, maybe. Wind, making the water all choppy. There's an Italian geologist called Luigi Picardi who said that there could be a geological explanation for the sightings of of Nessie. So in the earliest recorded sighting, you know, the Columba one, the drama queen one, kid on. Apparently there was also a loud roaring that accompanied the sighting, which Luigi said could be a description of an earthquake, because Loch Ness runs along the Great Glen Fault, and lots of reports only describe a disturbance on the surface of the water, which could be a release of gas through the fault, although it may be mistaken for something swimming in the water. Another option, which I enjoy, would be a plesiosaur, but plesiosaurs were said to be cold-blooded reptiles that needed warm tropical waters to live in. And Loch Ness is pretty cold, and if Nessie was an actual plesiosaur, she'd require a food source that would be way more than what Loch Ness could provide her. Also, the structure of the neck means that plesiosaurs couldn't actually lift their necks out of the water like that, you know, like. Also, the loch's only about 10,000 years old-ish, dating back to the end of the last ice age. Before that it was frozen for like 20,000 years. Also, if creatures similar to plesiosaurs, or if plesiosaurs actually lived under Loch Ness, they would be seen more often because they need to breathe, you know, they have to get their heads out the water every so often, several times a day or whatever, to breathe, so people would be spotting them more. I think with the existence of this myth and the abundance of tourists to that area, I think that people will be actively looking for the Loch Ness Monster, and if they see things like bits of wood in the water or otters or whatever, they'll automatically think, I've just seen the Loch Ness Monster. It's going to spark an interest. So do I believe in Nessie? Right, I want to. I love this sort of thing. My skeptical brain says that most sightings will be the stuff listed above, like wood, other animals and stuff like that. But I'd love to think that in this huge expanse of water, you know, it's so deep with like potential hidden parts where a big animal could be living. We can't possibly know what's down there. We don't know that, you know, a species hasn't adapted to live under the water without needing to get up to breathe every so often. Maybe the abundance of tourists means that she's hiding more now, which is good, because Nessie, if you're watching, stay hidden, because we know how awful humans can be. Should be captured and hunted and killed and put in a museum, so just stay hidden, Nessie, stay hidden. But yeah, we don't know, we don't know. I'd appreciate if everyone could keep an open mind in this. I hate comments, especially on like the paranormal videos and stuff. I hate comments that are like, oh, it's definitely not real, you're stupid if you believe in this sort of thing. And it's like, why can't people just have an open mind and let people believe what they want? Because you don't know that there's not a monster living under the loch. You don't know for sure. Just because these experts have said that there's nothing there doesn't mean that there isn't. They just might have missed her. Nessie might be like, maybe she could turn invisible, you don't know that. Maybe there's some sort of time warp under the loch that we don't know about, where she can travel back and forth. You don't know, right? We don't know. Water's scary, it's deep. Loch Ness is huge. We can't possibly know. So, sorry, I'm really passionate about this apparently. I'll leave all my sources below as well so that you can look at all the websites that I was looking through the other day and prep for this video. It's dead interesting. I love that we have this myth in Scotland. I love that we have this story and that it brings people to the loch and stuff like that. So if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe, click the notification bell if you want notified of when I upload. And yeah, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you later.